I don't need it. Okay. I'm loud enough. Thank you. All right, so we will call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And Patrick, call the roll, please.
Sure. Mike Hindley.
I'm present.
Mike Fannin.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
James.
Here.
Paul McDonald.
Here.
Paul Spratt.
Here.
Larry.
Here.
And Terry.
Here.
And I am here as well.
Hey, Roger.
So,
Oh, and Roger. My mistake.
and then we also have Chad and Tom. And we'd like to welcome our newest member, Terry Arol. Terry is down here on the end. Terry was appointed by council at their last meeting, and we are excited to have him on board. Terry, you want to give us the 30 seconds on
Sure.
joining us here?
Great to be here. I'm a 50-year Grosse Pointe Park resident. Last 23 on Westchester, across from some guy, hooligan person, a couple seats down. I want to see if we can get cops over by his house by 10:30, 11 each night. It gets a little violent. I'm a 33-year advertising / marketing executive, creative director at a small agency in Farmington Hills. I've worked just about every acronym-laden agency in Detroit over the years. For a series of mergers and closures, I ended up at this small place, and it's been great. More of a creative mind, I think. That's kind of my business that I'm in, and hoping to spread some of that within this commission and see if I can help in any way I can.
Sounds good. Much appreciated. Happy to have you.
What's the name of the small agency you ended up?
The JRT agency. Oh, and I have a wife.
Advertising.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
I have a wife who's been here with me for all that time, surprisingly, and 2 children who grew up here. Both went to Trombley. I went to Trombley. My kids went to Trombley, and all through the system, Pierce and South.
Excellent. All right.
Can we do one small shout out as a happy birthday to Patrick Gleason?
So long as we don't have to say.
You do not have to.
We're good.
Excellent. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Privilege to be here tonight. So,
There's no free dessert.
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say any, but that's okay.
Any other birthdays, anniversaries? We're good? All right. Meeting minutes from the last meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes that were circulated as part of the packet?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Yes, birthday boy, we have a few typos we need to correct. Like how to spell Mike Bannon and Chairman Mike Hindley. And also, I believe that our liaison from the council was actually present. You've got to be down.
Came in the
I
middle.
came towards the end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with the changes to spell Mike with an E for Bannon, Chairman with an R, and Hindling with a second N instead of a B. And the note that Councilmember Caulfield joined in progress. Any other comments or changes to the draft minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as modified?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Now we come to our time for public comment. Do any members of the public have anything they'd like to address the commission? All right. Chad, director's report.
Yes, we'll touch on a few items. The first being the requested action items for this evening. That would be approve and acknowledge the new agenda format, approve and acknowledge the extended fitness center hours, and the review of the Parks and Recreation 5-year plan proposal. And the number 4, which isn't making the director's report, but is the approval of the children's pool rendering for the foundations project.
Do you want to discuss these now and then vote on them under new business?
We can probably touch on those
Talk
now.
about them? Okay, talk
Yep.
about them now. All right, go for it. So, agenda format.
As you'll see stated in the packet, you'll be able to go to the layout of that proposed, which would be on page 17. That would show the roll call, the approval of agenda, well, the director's report, approval of meeting minutes, public comment, any guests or presentations that we might have, my report, subcommittee reports, again, verbal updates from each committee, allowing you guys to speak on some of those topics, the programming, Windmill Point Park and Marina and Patterson Park subcommittee chairs, the city administration communications, the unfinished business, new business, and then discussion items, commissioner communication, and then adjournment. Any discussion?
Don't we normally allow the questions from the audience to be covered at the end before we adjourn?
We changed that up either the last or the meeting before that to just go with one time, not to have a.
Just at the beginning of the
Yeah,
meeting?
Right, so
Yeah.
we can consider any public comment, Larry, as we're discussing any action items or any recommendation items.
So is that on here still?
Yeah, it's Roman 4 now.
Public
so-
comment, I see.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts here. I appreciate the thought you've put into this. There's some things in here that I think might need some refinement. So obviously roll call, fine. Approval of agenda, I think that we have to have the agenda set. If we move into update and discussion items to be added, there's really no limiting principle on what the agenda is, and I really don't think that works. So I would not support that. I guess in presentations, I question whether that's a necessary standing agenda item. If we have some sort of guest or presentation, we can add it in. I know we're going to be moving into the strategic planning process, and we might want to dedicate an item to that, depending on what the consultant suggests. But that item seems a bit surplusage at the moment. Director's report, strongly support you having a written director's report and then touch on the high points. Where you say the director's report section will contain a comprehensive written report, are you thinking as part of the packet, or are you thinking in the agenda you'll have kind of what we used to have where it's kind of a more detailed bullet points within the agenda itself?
In the packet itself will be the extensive part that we have to be able to review. I'll be giving you all the information within that.
Yeah, I like the idea of the packet. I think that's been very helpful, but I would not go back to the old days of the kind of outline of Windmill Point and Halloween party, et cetera. I think that your time in the commission sounds better spent discussing the action items rather than running through that. Subcommittee reports, I can't support 7. The whole idea of subcommittee structures was not to have the subcommittees report here. It was to have them facilitate your director's report and communication. If there's some item, I don't mind adding it to that specific item, but I know everyone here is volunteering their time, and the subcommittees are helping consolidate a lot of information. But again, I'm struggling to see how that would facilitate kind of the role here. City administration, we're always happy to hear from Nick or whoever is coming. Again, if that needs to be a standing item, we can have it. If it's going to be I don't mind it. I just am not sure that it needs to be part of a standardized agenda format. And perhaps 8 and 5 are on an as-needed basis. They're not necessarily a meeting, an every meeting item, but an as-needed. Unfinished business, obviously we need to have. New business we need to have. Discussion items being after new business. I'm not sure what discussion items there would be that wouldn't be captured by one of the other categories. I don't mind the thought. I'd welcome, this group's view on that. But if there are items that are going to be important enough for this group to have a full commission discussion on, I think the omnibus category at the end risks, not fully fleshing those out where they should be. And then I don't know what commissioner communications means. You'll have to tell us that.
I think for the discussion items might be some topics that we want to discuss briefly, and then I possibly come back on the next agenda as an actual action item or under one of those subcommittee topics there. More so probably to decide for the next meeting if it's going to be an action item for us or not, to get some more information or background on what we might want to discuss if something, a topic comes up.
So my concern is we don't have action items as an agenda. And if we're going to move more into formal recommendations, which is what this seems to be designed around, the operative part of that would be the action. And we don't have that, but we have several places where discussion of what there might be action on take place. So part of the reason I said I think there's some good starting material here that needs some refinement. What I would like to see, and if you could go back to the drawing board perhaps on this, is those things where council would like a recommendation should be, to me, an agenda item. If then, right, so Councilmember Caulfield emailed before this meeting, he would like to make sure the pool is addressed, right? That we have an identification of the action items, and that the action items have the discussion opportunity as part of them. The commission, no one on this commission is hesitant to speak up as we discuss the items, but I want to make sure that we're empowering that as part of the action items. If it's something that's going to be an action item in the future and we're seeking guidance on it, whether we have that as under the director's report or whether we have that as part of the unfinished business discussion or new, right? I don't.
My plan was for it to
quite know.
be in the new business.
Okay.
So it's to put the action items in the new business.
So I think that you can probably lay this out in a way that will facilitate what the commission can do to assist the council and administration. And I also want to keep it streamlined. We've made an effort to have these meetings run a little more efficiently over the past couple of years. We've had some success in reducing duplication, and I just want to make sure we're not building duplication back in, and that if we have an item that it's fully discussed, we hear from the public, we make our recommendation, but then we don't have to come back and do it again. But I like the initiative, Chad, in proposing a new agenda format for this and formalizing, moving some of it to writing. Let me open it up to the commission. Any other thoughts on the agenda format?
Refer to page 19 as well, because that kind of also gives you an example of if we were to put this in, it would show tonight kind of how the meeting would go. So it can also help you by looking at page 19 to kind of see how the meeting, not too far off from how we've been operating right now, but that will help you see it, kind of what the
I
proposal.
like to see that the subcommittee reports are still, I think, still having a list of the subcommittees, giving everyone an opportunity to report on it, whether they have anything or not. They don't have to, but just as a reminder that, oh, yeah, I forgot we were going to bring that up. Just to have it on the agenda, I think would be wise.
I appreciate that. I'm not entirely sure I see it the same way, but I appreciate the point.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, without belaboring it, I'd just like to hear a little bit more from you, Chad, about like what was, in your mind, what's driving wanting to do the changes? What's the big rationale what's the problem that you're trying to fix so we can?
I think
See if
it's
we get
to somewhat cut down on the discussion time, but to bring, rather than the questions and the answers and then more questions throughout, I'm kind of covering a lot of what you guys are looking for when you go on your site visits and things like that, or discussions you've had. I'm hopefully answering most, if not all, of kind of the questions you have after you guys get together and discuss in the director's report. And maybe more so with the subcommittee reports, it would be, here's 3 things that we want to inform the rest of you on, not necessarily questions or why hasn't this been done, but we noticed this, we really liked that, or we were at this event and this happened there. Not so many of why haven't we done this, or when are we gonna do that? That's gonna hopefully be covered in the director's report for you to see.
So for the benefit of the rest of the commissioners, at the last meeting, which I missed watching a losing World Series effort by the valiant Orioles of Grosse Pointe Park Little League, I had several conversations with many of you afterwards, and Chad and I met, and we met with City Manager Seisland and the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield, and had a lot of discussions following that meeting. And one of the things you may have noticed is there was a reminder to subcommittee chairs to please submit their written list of items and questions to Chad 3 weeks out, which had been the timeframe we established when we established the subcommittee process, whenever it was, a year and a half ago, whenever we established it. And we had somewhat gotten away from that. And then similarly, asking to ensure that the agenda was out a week ahead of the meeting with the full agenda packet. Again, something that was set during the subcommittee timing that we had gotten away from. And what Chad just described is what we had intended the subcommittee process to be. And through the fault of no one, but just the way that life goes, we had somewhat gotten away from those deadlines. That had caused Chad to not have the ability to come up with some of the answers that he might want to. And it also caused some of us not to have the packets and time to review them, ask follow-up questions, and be as prepared as we might want to be for these meetings. So that was part of the driver behind this, was how we reinforce or return to that structure so that the subcommittees can get the Chad, he can respond, and those things that are perhaps easily dealt with or more routinely dealt with are dealt with by Chad and the subcommittees, and we don't have to spend this meeting going back through, take no offense, Chad, how many times we talked about the downspout in this meeting is, I think, setting a record. So how do we do that? So this part of what this agenda is driving towards is how do we balance these things? And as we talked about, are there things that we need to talk about as a full body? Are there things that we just need to know about because they're raised in writing? You also have seen some more emails from Chad since the last meeting as part of keeping this body informed about major things like the pool hours we'll get to. I appreciated getting the email about the pool hours before that was posted. That's something that I know impacts the community. So there's a lot that is part of this that is related to some of what came up at the last meeting. So let me now turn it back to you all for additional comments, thoughts.
I think I really appreciate an effort to be thoughtful about our time spent together and have it be as productive and, efficient as we can make it. And I think it kind of goes hand in glove with the structure that the chairman was just describing, that we really should have our committee meetings in advance. And we really, personally, when I did this, maybe I shouldn't have, but what we talked about, I sent to the whole commission, figuring that then you guys are all better informed about what Windmill Point was talking about. And then we don't have to talk about it in the meeting.
I thought that was great,
Okay,
from my
good.
personal
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
So I guess my suggestion sort of is, as we're continuing to kind of refine the structure and the practice of meetings, a simpler agenda, which I think is what Mike Hindling is probably kind of hinting at here. I always say that, Mike Hindling or Mike Bannon, because I'll do it with Paul too. But I think that if we are communicating a little bit better in between the meetings, that it allows this time to be better spent. So the subcommittee meetings and notes and the director's report, we don't have to be reading that to each other while we're here. I would agree that we don't necessarily need, if I give you the 6 things we talked about, I gave it to you. We don't need to spend this time on it. And the agenda can be much simpler and broader, maybe a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more about ideas, a little less about a punch list,
Sure.
But that's my.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, just freshening up the agenda. I don't think anyone is going to be contrary to that.
And I appreciate you giving background on how this was developed. And I'm not saying, I'm saying it's the first time that there was an email, but this change of the agenda, this was not, I had heard about this like a month ago. And James, I thought I saw you send an email asking about these changes in the agenda. So it sounds like we've developed a plan. What I would say is in the future, let's have an opportunity for the commission to holistically, before we see it on a piece of paper, have some input on it. That would be, I'll kind of stop there with it.
Very good. All right, so Chad, I think from my perspective, I'd ask you to take another cut at this, and with the comments you've heard from the various commissioners, see if we can come up with a new agenda form that helps address the issues this was directed to, as well as the comments you heard tonight. That make sense?
Yep.
Distributed before the next one.
I will say having that in advance was very helpful in terms of getting a chance to review it. Okay, so next thing on your,
Do we want to briefly just touch on these topics, and then when we get to them in the actual packet itself, we'll get more in depth, but I'll give you an idea of what they are, and then we can make the decisions on them when we get to them in the packet.
yeah, so this is a good example of one of the things you want to think about with the agenda structure. I don't love the idea of having the discussion, then we go do other things, and we come back and vote on it. I prefer to do it all at once. I don't mind voting on them during the director's report for efficiency. So if you want to get them out of the way now, I'd say with, that's an objection from someone, why don't we run through them as part of your report? We can vote on them.
Sure.
If they require votes. So fitness centers next.
Yes. Currently, the Lavins Activity Center is Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays, 10 to 5:30. We're proposing that starting on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, the hours will shift Monday through Saturday from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with staff working 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Just for purposes of opening the building and closing the building up at the end of the night, making sure they get everyone out. This is going to allow us to have later rentals in the gymnasium, longer hours in the fitness center, which has been a fairly big topic lately. It's going to allow us to have more activity in our activities building. So we are currently working out, we've got a couple of options for our staff hours. But we should have that squared away with no problem before that date. We do have one staff member who just put in their 2-week notice, who works a few popular shifts over the weekend. So we did have a now hiring go out earlier today for our facilities, lifeguards, and front desk in the center. So I hope you will consider the approval recommendation to adjust those hours. We'll still keep Sunday as a 10 to 5:30, but Monday through Saturday would change 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I think it will allow us to get individuals to work out before they go into their job, or if they're just an early riser, and also give them the opportunity if they work late or dinner with the family, things like that, the chance to get down and have a later workout in the evening as well.
So I'm retired, so when I hear you talking about 6 a.m., I think, well, holy cow, that's early. Do you get a number of people to make that worthwhile to open up that early?
It's going to be something that we're going to have to try out and see how it goes. We will be able to monitor it with them scanning in to unlock the door. We're going to see the number of scans throughout the day. So we'll be able to see what the activity is like in those morning
So I'm
hours.
thinking if
Again,
there's not that many, you could maybe delay it to 7 a.m.
the great thing with it is the fact that this is going to be a nice trial run. So if we can see over 3 months, 6 month period of
Yeah.
time, we're just not seeing activity, we probably are opening the building a little too early.
Yeah.
We won't really know until we do it.
You try it out, okay.
Did we lose some individuals that had memberships after the pandemic when we changed the hours? Yeah. Will they come back? Could they come back? It's a possibility. But again, I think we're missing some memberships due to the fact of the time that we open up and the time that we close. It is difficult for those who work or have commitments, you know, in the middle of the day to get down there and have a workout in before 7 o'clock. So if we extend it to 9 p.m., I think we'll see an uptick in memberships. The fact that they can be able to work out until 9 o'clock, and most of the movies are going, you know, 8:30, 8:45, something like that, sometimes until 9 o'clock. So we're going to have staff there for the fitness as well.
Is there staff that would be in the building for all these hours? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
At times
A
there will
little
be
more. You
Yeah.
said, instead of 6 o'clock, they come in at 5:30, right?
Yes, so there'll be a staff member to open the building up prior to anyone actually coming in. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no financial impact. We're not changing any staffing numbers.
We budgeted to have extended hours to see if we could put that in place. So it won't change what we already planned in the budget to have for the extended hours. We based the budget off of going back closer to our old hours.
All right, so just for this group's understanding, then there is a financial impact, but it's been budgeted for in the budget that's been approved by council, so that's why we're showing no impact.
Correct.
This.
I love the idea of trying it out, seeing how it goes, and then making a change later as needed. I think you don't know who wants to come work out at 8:30 until you're open at 8:30.
Right.
PM, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's again something we'll be able to monitor and see. And I think it will take some time. We're gonna have to see some seasons change and what the activity is like.
College kids come and go, stuff like that. And reminding the, the residents that the hours have changed and we're open till,
Yeah, the world has had a difficult time hiring people. Are you accessible to getting people relatively regularly?
I am optimistic that we can
Be optimistic.
get some staff members. I think we, Stedman, myself, and a few other individuals, I think we can get creative on how we can get those positions filled. We also have some exceptional staff members in some other areas of the department that we might discuss that option with as well, for opportunity to move from a different interdepartment to the front desk there.
That notice that just went out about hiring, did that go out to the entire community or just to?
Everyone that is signed up for those citywide emails, yes. And it will also be on the website. We shared the link with that for the application, so they can
Yes.
send that back to us quickly.
I saw that.
And it will also go on Facebook if it did not already go on.
It's already on Facebook.
Okay, I thought it was.
Any other comments, questions for Chad? I see that we're voting on that. Does this have to go to council for approval? Is that just approved here?
I think we wanted the blessing of the commission to agree with our proposed hours that you guys are in favor of trying. this
Okay,
out.
but you don't have to go on for a further. So Terry, as our new member, James raises a good point. We are an advisory only body. We have no inherent authority. We make recommendations to council, or we weigh in on things for the city administration, primarily Chad. So while we do occasionally vote on things, other than our minutes and agendas, it's guidance for those who will make the actual decision. So that's, it's unusual that we vote.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I may ask some very ignorant questions as we go, but it's just to learn some of the idiosyncrasies of what's going on.
Okay, you'll fit right in.
And not everything that we'll vote on will move to a council meeting. But I also want to be, this is your guys' commission, I want you to weigh in so that when we make a decision on something and your neighbor's asking, why the heck? Well, none of us were in favor of that. I don't know why Chad did that. It helps to have you guys here right now assist me with that decision that I put forth to you guys and say that you're in agreement that it makes sense to give our community members more hours, more activity at our activities building, which is my goal is I think we want as many people at the parks as possible. Therefore, I want activities in our activity building all day long.
I will say that as someone who deals with a lot of data collection to affect marketing and things like that, I agree with Howard in that testing it and finding out if people are actually going to come is really, prerogative here, it sounds like, but it also sounds like that will be the thing that tells us that it's viable. If you need to hire more people to man that, then
And the nice thing is we have it budgeted for this fiscal year, which will end the end of June. So we're really gonna see,
we'll have a good,
for the most part, all the seasons that we want in times throughout the year to see what the activity is like.
All right, with that being said, someone want to make a motion on Chad's request to recommend extension of the fitness center hours.
So moved.
Paul, do we have a second? James? All in favor of approving the recommendation? Aye. Anyone opposed? Chad, you have our approval. All right. 5-year plan proposals.
Yes, if you go to page 22, you can see what the proposals that were, that we had received. My recommendation, the city's recommendation, is that we go with OHM advisors. My biggest ones are on the notes side there, but what really caught me and that I was in agreement with and feel that we need to make this a successful master plan is the inventory needs and assessment with life cycle condition analysis. That's something that's going to help me and I think help us by knowing what's going to be the priority level and how much time do we have left on it. So we and city administration and working with Ginger can start to put those plans together of knowing, okay, this is what we most likely have left with the inventory that we have. Also, that will roll into the capital improvement schedule and maintenance. That's going to, again, allow us to work with our finance department on what year we're planning on implementing replacement or repairs or recondition of those items that we have. And also the fact that they're going to conduct the bi-weekly virtual check-in meetings with staff. The fact that we're going to stay in regular communication is going to be super helpful. We're going to constantly be checking in on things. And they've been doing a lot of work with the city, so they're quite familiar with what Grosse Pointe Park is and I think our goals and what we want as a city. So I feel very confident that we'll get the type of master plan that we want by choosing this firm to work with. They're really probably right around the middle. They weren't the lowest bid, and they weren't the highest bid either, which I think is helpful. There were some that came in even significantly higher than these that weren't even considered. But again, they fall right in the middle, and usually that's where I feel like I've had the most luck with contractors and projects and things like that. Is if they come in too low, there's a reason they're coming in too low, and if they come in too high, it might not really be something they care that much about and may not want the work anyways.
Which one is being recommended?
Right in the middle, OHM advisors.
Okay.
They kind of with the point system you'll see on page 23. That showed everything that they kind of covered on a point system that we put together that hit everything that we want. We're going to also be able to have team meetings that you guys will be able to participate in. Now, those might be during work hours, so there'll have to be some flexibility with schedules, but you guys will be able to be a part of that. You're going to help us push the online survey and making sure that the community gets involved in that survey. We get it out and people actually go with it. And then I believe there's going to be at least 2 kind of town hall meetings where the residents will be able to attend. We'll have discussions about the master plan.
And are those town hall meetings in OHM's proposal for them to
Yes.
participate?
Yeah.
You sure you don't want the $95,000?
No.
I have
We're good.
a question. I don't remember if it was the city manager or you, but one of you said that you loved the plan that was made for East Grand Rapids. Do you know which vendor participated in that plan?
I don't believe that was OHM. I would have to double check, but I don't believe.
I was pleasantly surprised to see OHM on here because I didn't know they did this. If you guys are confident they do this and do it well, and I agree with you that it's probably a huge advantage. They'll probably do better work because they do so much other work with the city. Sounds to me like a great call.
And then,
And I think they'll have an understanding,
Exactly.
right?
They're not starting at zero.
Gross Point is always considered an outlier whenever you do these, so I fully agree. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
What's the time frame from start to finish?
I believe we were going to look to start in October, and if I remember correctly, I think it was just shy of around 8 months. It could be between 6 to 8 months. So it will be a bit of a, I won't say speedy process, but that's kind of for a lot of about the norm.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you envision that the commission's participation in the whole process will be at these town hall type meetings, or will it be in our regular commission meetings?
I think more of it will be.
Not town hall, but external.
More of it will probably come from the team meetings that we have with OHM, so that you guys are included in that. I think some of it will come up throughout our commission meetings, but most of it's going to be separate with OHM working and then coming and meeting and us getting together on
And
that.
maybe like task oriented, right? Like if you're talking about a survey, that doesn't need to be done here.
Right, and Howard, the way that I want to make sure we're keeping open minds too, is I want OHM to weigh in
Sure.
on the best way that we can do this. Ultimately, I know council and city administration is looking to us to shepherd this through and make a recommendation. So I think it's going to naturally be a big part of these meetings.
Okay.
Plus others. That's one thing that Tom Caulfield asked us to address tonight too. It probably will be a greater demand on this commission's members over the next year than we've been used to.
Big project.
And we might even need to look at, do we need to increase our meeting frequency to help deal with this? I don't want to make any of those changes until we talk to OHM, but I would like them to tell us how we can best leverage it. The worst thing we could do is say, just give us a plan and we'll vote up or down. That's not helpful. But I have a little, I think Chad and I we're saying the same thing in slightly different ways. I'd like them to tell us how we can do this. Terry?
Hey, does NA mean non-applicable or non-available?
Yes.
Which one?
That's it. Not applicable, so.
So once we vote on our recommendation for one of these proposals, which we're going to be asked to do tonight, are we going to then receive the proposal? Let me put it this way, I would like to see the proposal if we approve.
We do have, we'll be able to pass that, yep. And then that will go to council.
Chad, I was, as a new board member, it's been fascinating to me to see how many different things and amenities have popped up with the park over the last 30 or 40 years. And to help this consultant group, I thought it might be an interesting or good idea to provide them a timeline on when all these things came through.
That's a great part of what that's what they're gonna be doing, is they're going to be able to, what you and Paula kind of discussed in your email to me,
Okay.
they're gonna kind of work with us on putting that together, so we'll be able to,
And there's a great bit of history too for a media piece to show just what's happened with the park over the years. Many people have done an incredible job to create amenities that, I looked at Nick's East Grand Rapids, and he's right, it's a fabulous thing. But as I'm going through East Grand Rapids, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have them in so many different ways with all the hard work that's been done here. So
and
All ideas for media pieces on the history of parks are gratefully accepted by our local press coverage. Rob, Brad? Yeah. Okay. Whatever we can do for you, Brad, just let us know. Roger raises a good point, as Chad. There's been a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of great energy from commissioners asking about essentially chomping at the bit on how we can get started with the process. Once we were hoping to have the selected vendor here, we got to jump through the right hoops and approve it, make the recommendation. But I think that once we get them in the room, we'll be able to start quickly here. But I know many of you have had great questions, and my answers have frequently been, wait till we get the consultant in. We're on the verge of doing that. But it's not that any of the questions are wrong, just we need the consultant to help guide us through that. Other questions, comments, concerns on this issue before we get into the discussion of the specific vendors? Hearing none, so Chad has asked us to consider OHM. There's three that you highlighted, Chad. GMA Studios, Weiss and Vanderbrink, and OHM. Anything you want us to know about Weiss and Vanderbrink or GMA? We've obviously described OHM in your preference, but anything else that the commissioner should know before we call the vote?
No, Fleece's Vanderbrink is well known. I hadn't heard of GMA before, but they both cover some of the things, but not all the things that we were looking for. Again, you'll see in the point system. That's what that really caught me with OHM was Rogers, again, talking about that timeline. They're going to help us with that timeline. They're going to find the things if we're looking for extended park hours or things like that. They're going to go through with their surveys and looking over our parks and say, we can add more lighting. We can do this. These facilities are this old. We're going to be looking at all that and figure out what the next 5 years we need to address. And that's really why I like OHM over the top three that we were considering.
All right. Does someone want to make a motion to approve OHM?
I got a question before we go there.
Sure.
I noticed the per hour principal is the highest for OHM. Is that something that we should think about negotiating or not? It's the highest of all the companies.
I believe that we can have a conversation with them for that per hour principle. I can't guarantee anything. But we could talk with Patrick Droz about that.
Might be helpful. Okay. Thank you.
So doing that professionally, my experience has always been that as long as their overall scope is covered in the same metrics and the meetings we were looking to have provided, and their total project cost comes into that aspect, what that would usually mean is the number of staff they have committed to achieve that goal. And if that's divided among, say, 4 people versus 2, that's where the overall principal cost per hour would come from. Because if it's 2 employees versus 4, then that cost builds up. But as long as they have the experience necessary to achieve the same goal, I don't see a need to worry about that as long as the project costs come within the scope that Chad is looking for.
Yeah, and I think Patrick hit the nail on the head. I don't mind raising whatever cost issues Chad, you and Nick and team think are appropriate to raise, but I think if we're going to approve it, we're approving it based on the scope and quote that they're giving us as opposed to the particular hourly basis. But I think Larry's question about is there any further sharpening of the pencil to be had is a good one, but I think Patrick has a process. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Paul? Do we have support? Roger? Any discussion on the recommendation to use OHM, the recommendation to Chad to engage OHM? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. The children's pool.
You go to page 24 and 25. You will see the rendering, and you also will have the additional sheet they gave you in color, the full size, for the rendering. And this is for the foundation's children's pool project. What we are looking for is approval and the blessing of this commission for them to move forward with this rendering for that project. Not included in that, though, is going to be removing the current fountain that's there, saving the top portion of that, repurposing and reutilizing it within the parks. Also adding in 3 more shade structures in that area, so there will be 4 fun umbrellas in there. and redoing the pool surfacing and coping around the outside. So everything in there will basically be brand new again.
See, it does not include the removal.
It does. Everything in there, what you don't see in the picture, but everything is included, what they're gonna take on for the
Okay, I was gonna
project
say, I
is.
think we want
Yes,
them
yeah,
to
no.
include the
And
removal of the pond.
I did note that it could potentially take 2 or 3 phases, depending on the total funds raised by the foundation, more so only for the devices that will be in the pool. The construction process will take that we will have the connections in the pool. Getting some of the water features might come a fiscal year or 2 down the road, depending on what they raise. And we've already had a discussion in the city administration that there might be 1 or 2 features that we budget as well to add in there. The plan is right now that hopefully they'll be able to get everything. They're going to at least do the pool surfacing, a good amount of the sensory features that are in there, the umbrellas, the coping, all that will all be handled. You might see that you'll see the connections in the water until we get those features in there. So again, it might be 2 or 3 phases, and they'll get it down the road with us as well. So they'll be ready. And if we decide that we want to change our mind of putting something else in, that's a nice thing as well, is that they're interchangeable. So we'll be able to put something else in that. Or over time, if we say, this one's, seen it's time to purchase something else, we'll be able to connect something else or something new to it. So it'd be nice.
So Chad, just to be clear, even though the fence is not shown on this, we're not removing the fence.
Just during the removal of the fountain itself.
We're not getting gentle rolling hills.
Yeah.
No change to the place.
Landscaping around it.
That's on the other.
Yeah, this kind of looks dangerous to me. This is not a splash pad, this is a pool, right?
It is a wading pool, correct. So they can't swim in the depths of it, and everything that they've designed, there's been a few questions about that. Everything that they design is made to either be too wide to wrap around and climb up, or too skinny and narrow to really climb on comfortably. So we feel, and that's, again, I had that discussion about the farms is changing up their children's pool because their residents were not happy with just having an open pool there. They want some sensory items. They want some things to keep their kids' attention and enjoying that. And again, the nice thing that we're going to have is we will have lifeguards there to be able to monitor and control that. So there won't be kids climbing because they'll be able to watch that. They can't really climb. That was a conversation I had with that company, and they said that's exactly why they designed the features the way that they do, is to prohibit that and limit them being able to do that.
So the fence on the outer perimeter of the cement.
Larry, just one
Is that
second.
right?
Paul, did that
Yes.
address your, hang on one second. Did that address your
This
safety?
is what swimming pool looks like. They're last thing to bang their knees into and poke their eyes out, just in picture.
They won't be swimming in it, more so as they kind of walk around in the water. It's not really deep enough for them to swim from one side to the other. It's only 12 inches at the deepest point. So everything they put in there was, again, at a level that they could work with the level of the water in the pool. So again, it's more waiting, just walking around in it, playing and putting their hands through it and dumping buckets than it is to actually swim from one side.
Splashing each other.
Yes.
You don't have the blind spots that the fountain.
Roger, just hang on one second. Paul, did that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So I think Larry was next.
Yeah, and I just was clarifying that the fence goes on the outer perimeter of the concrete.
Yeah,
platform.
where you see the outer perimeter is the fence. Just with their design, they weren't able to take everything that's there. So that's why you don't see the umbrellas in there. That's all separate. That will be in the final project.
Roger?
Just to note that they don't have the blind spots with the new pool compared to what it was before.
And the lighthouse doesn't create a blind spot?
Nope.
Okay.
See through all of this stuff pretty much. Well, except the lighthouse, that's all.
It's
so big.
still not that big that I think it would be challenging for them to hide behind that.
Right.
And go under and not be seen.
Exactly.
Other question, James?
So, in phase 1, would all of the mechanicals be in place to support all phases?
Yes, everything will be put in place on the mechanical end.
Any thought of having a fun umbrella in the middle of the pool? That's fountain now adds a nice amount of shade in that pool and kind of a place to duck out of the sun on those really, really hot days. I'd like to understand, I think you said 4, I think there's 3 listed here. Did you say 4 umbrellas? Chance?
3 new ones.
Adding
Oh,
3
3
with
new
it,
ones.
if we
Okay,
need
so
to
4
have
total.
a new top, they'll all match, but if we need to replace the top on the current one, the 3 additional will add that, so you'll see the 4 throughout it.
Same style, fixed, no closing.
You said the max that we, well, not just,
Yes, the depth will not change,
perfect.
Just
What's the
new
current-
surfacing.
What's the current depth? in the-
12.
Perfect.
Is putting a umbrella in the middle of the pool been considered? Thought about it? Is that something that's,
We had.
he just suggested it, so I'm wondering.
I hadn't really thought on that one, and I'm not sure if, well, I guess what kind of crowd that would create in the middle of the pool, if they're trying to get to the shade. I was thinking.
I'm not
with
necessarily in
around-
favor of that. I'm just wondering if that's something we're gonna look at or not.
Curious what was considered.
I,
Being a shade guy, I know I found the shade spot in the kid pool, I spend a fair amount of time in there right now, so it's just part of my life right now, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
I would honestly have to look to see how that would impact that feature in the back. If there's anything that might not make it in initially, it could be that larger feature, which would then allow us to potentially add that shade structure in the middle and 1 or 2 more smaller features and take away from that larger. So it's not something we would have to rule out. I wasn't planning on putting any kind of shade structure in the pool itself.
I mean, I was just saying, since we're gonna tear it up, it might be something that's possible. Because I was just thinking about it. You know, ideally, if it could be something that you could raise up and close early in the summer when it's kind of chilly out and let that thing warm up and let people enjoy the sun. All days aren't created equal out there, and then there's some absolute scorchers.
And that might be something we'd have to look at with the difference in the shade structures we have right now, because there are nuts and bolts and things like that that keep it raised up as if those come loose or fall into the pool or things like that. I would have some slight
Well,
concerns
yeah,
with that.
I'd be curious what the pool accessories company,
Yeah.
whoever deals with this says, because of extra thing, either birds or leaves or it catching material that could drop into the pool. I just have no idea. So I think it's a good question. Is this something that you have, that the foundation is designing and we're just giving a thumbs up or thumbs down, or are you gonna work with the designers?
I've been primarily handling the design work with them, and sending that to the foundation. We've been working together. I kind of showed them some drawings and some of my recommendation. This was my recommendation with a few coming back from them. Some of the smaller fountains that you see was something that they wanted to incorporate to be able to run hands through and things like that. So I brought that into the mix. But the other larger features was something that I put together and recommended to them.
So I'll make a suggestion and then we can see who wants to make a motion. Perhaps we can ask Chad to consider the placement of the other umbrellas in a way that may provide shade, even if it's not in the middle. If we can have 1 or 2 closer to the edge that would create shade pockets and might avoid some of the other difficulties of putting them in the pool. But I would think that perhaps if we can approve this with the request to Chad that he see what he can do on the shade front. I'm not sure that the shade's a big enough deal breaker with me to say no to the design, but I think it's a good enough question that we should see if we can get some flexibility.
And if you guys are happy with doing that, that will help us move forward. But also I can find out the structure that is behind that might be impacted by the umbrella is the most expensive item on the project for that.
Oh, yeah.
So being able to put a shade structure in there might not necessarily be a negative thing. I will tell you, it probably is the item that will get the most activity and play on it because of what all entails throughout that structure, rather than just some areas where you see some water shooting out and stuff like that. But again, you could fill buckets and play with it that way. it's giving them something to still be active with. So if that works for you guys, I can definitely look into that and have a discussion with Mr. Kennedy as well.
Yeah, so Mike, would that be, I'm looking at this thing, reading final render. I struggle with them, those words there. I think we should move forward. I don't want to hold anything up.
I understand where you're coming from, and I have the
Struggle
same,
with final render.
same hesitation. So if I were to propose the motion, James, it would be to approve the final rendering, but to ask that Chad work with the team and the umbrella placement to try to create shade in the pool. My concern is we're not going to be able to get the umbrella and the structures in the pool, and we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I'm not saying that's a deal breaker, but I would think that, especially considering the knowledge that Chad's team has of how the sun and shade moves throughout the hottest of the summer over there, that if we could get the right placement of two of those, we might be able to kill two birds with one stone. But we would be approving this as final and asking Chad to make accommodations. So you're right, James, that if we want to ensure that there's shade in the pool, we would have to decline to approve this. So with that all being said, someone want to make a motion regarding the request for an approval of the final rendering?
One thing before this is a perfect example. I feel like I've asked a lot about communication with residents, and I feel like my kids are 17 and 20, and they're not gonna play in this thing. Long time until my grandkids played in this thing. My opinion is sort of aesthetic, you know? But there are tons of residents who do play in this thing, and I think their feedback would be great. And so, like, I don't know how much, impact they might have had on this design. I know you guys have spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
But,
And I did have a discussion with about 15 families, and they were all in favor of.
because I never would have thought what James said,
Accessory.
and so that, I guess that's I wasn't sure how we got to this point.
Yeah. I did reach out.
Okay, good. Let us help you if we can in the future on that, because I think we can be a great conduit to bring more voices in if you want them.
Absolutely. And I think that's the direction that the foundation is heading in. And that's part of them wanting to see this blessing and knowing that I went out and reached out to individuals. They had some of the same concerns of items being climbed on and things like that.
Yep.
But there's also discussion of, well, what about a mini slide? Well, that's the same thing. Then you're jumping off of that. Then you're putting pads in that. We're already talking with Aquatic Source and Raindrop. They're like, you don't want to put the pads in the pool and have that mess on top of maintenance.
I guess that's the risk of more voices, right? You ask 100 people, they'll have 100 different answers.
Which I think, honestly, in the future with the foundation project, we will probably see something more along the lines of some surveys and things like that of option A, B, and C for this type of project. What does the community want to see? Okay, we'll come back and kind of tweak that and work on it there. And I think they want those opinions now.
Patrick, I realized I didn't look behind me when I asked for comments.
No, you're good. I didn't think about it until Howard brought his up for the feedback from those who are actively using it. After receiving Chad's rendering, I showed it to my friend and I've been spending a lot of time with the baby pool with her toddler this summer. So as someone helping and then watching what the current challenges are or what could be done differently. And I was very excited, but more importantly, so was she, as having raised two kids through the baby pool already and in the middle of that use case now. It's the potential that's seen here and the appreciation that feedback she and others have given to the city over the years was heard through this from her. And the excitement that comes with it. Because as Howard said, it's for the next generation of those currently using it.
I have one more question, just to suggest that whether some of these structures that you're gonna put in there, it looks like they have water spouting out of that. Is there a possibility that maybe a shade type roof or something could be incorporated into those designs, and that would possibly kill two birds with one stone, to have, I don't know, a canvas top on one of them or something?
I don't think with the height of any of those ones, we would be able to do that. I don't think there'd be any kind of extension that you could put on that lighthouse that.
No, I was thinking of these others,
The other ones.
something that has a.
I don't think they are strong enough or wide enough to be able to support that kind of shade structure going on top of it. with the size of what they are. I think you're gonna need a fairly, at least 10 feet was what we have over there now to get any kind of relevant shade in the pool. I don't think a 5 foot is gonna get
I'm thinking
enough shade for.
anything, any shade at all might be something to consider, that's all.
Sure.
Okay.
So I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Can I ask one more question? How tall is that lighthouse? How tall is the
The structure.
feature in the back?
That is a great question. I have
What are the sizes?
I don't remember the dimensions off the top of my head, but I can get that to you. Nothing, again,
Is this
nothing.
more powered, or is this, I mean?
Not much is.
I don't know. I don't remember the exact height that the lighthouse is. I wanted to say it's probably somewhere in the realm of like 6 feet.
It's the appropriate size for the user of this size pool.
And that's what she said. They've been doing, that's probably the
Yeah,
longest
actually,
one.
Right.
Oh, man, I think that one might be that they've been making for 20 years or so, and that was their exact first thing was this is made so that kids can't climb up that or get up and get injured. That's one of their big sellers, and that they've been in production of, I think, again, right around 20-21 years with it.
All right, let's go ahead and call for the motion. Mike?
Okay, so I would like to move that we approve the design as shown us with the proviso that we ask Chad to look into the shade issue, but not compel him to come back and report to us.
We have a second. Second from Larry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, Chad, please thank the foundation for us for all of their hard work and financial support. And please also thank the community members who took the time to weigh in on the design for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we are still technically in the director's report. I mean, anything else I need to report out?
I'll just touch on just a few things quickly to go through the director's report. Again, we're looking at some winter programming in the Tompkins Center, some bingo nights, some mom prom, some trivia nights, some early child programming throughout the days. And the big push with that is to make sure we're staying busy and utilizing some quiet time in the Tompkins Center for programming. So again, not necessarily rentals, but we'll see revenue with activities and just utilizing that space and creating more activity in the park. The 2026 recreation dates, as you'll see, that'll be the second Wednesday, February, April, June, August, October, December.
Hey, Chad, can we discuss these dates quickly?
We're going to discuss them slowly.
I don't think it's a huge conversation. I was curious if we thought we might want more meetings, but that's already been touched on. I guess I'm curious as to Wednesday versus Thursday. Curious about which months we've chosen to meet in. Looking at attendance, February is the worst month for attendance. So I would propose that we consider that 4 years in a row is the worst meeting for attendance.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. Number one, we are required to meet, I think, quarterly, or we are permitted to meet more frequently if we choose to, as without going through the special meeting hoops. So if we set in advance of next year our regular meetings, we have the flexibility, Howard, to add additional meetings.
Great.
We also don't have a specified night. Wednesday was reached because Monday you have council and you had school board meetings. Tuesday, there was something else. Wednesday was trying to shoot for free nights a few years ago, but there was no science behind it other than it.
Well, it started to change this year. We were on Thursday for years.
No, Thursday was last year was the only year we've ever.
Oh, is that
been on
right?
Thursday, yeah.
Oh.
But there is no magic to Wednesdays.
Okay.
And so part of what I would ask the group to do is go look at your other calendar commitments. If you have a standing Wednesday, whatever it is, or if the months don't work. So the way we got to the months was the commission for decades met quarterly and stretched the second quarter meeting to the beginning of the second quarter and the third quarter meeting to the end of the third. So there was no meeting in the chunk of the summer. And it had been intended, I'm told, to let the park staff focus on the parks. Part of our effort here as we went to 6 meetings was, this is when we need to be meeting and talking about the things that are going on and what needs attention. So we switched from quarterly to bi-monthly. And with that, then other than 1 year where all credit to Tom Caulfield, he was able to make it 2-2, 4-4, 6-6, 8-8, and 10-10 for the meetings, which will probably never be repeated. We have just tried to avoid other standing park government meetings or significant community events. So this is something we're more than happy to adjust, and I think we should weigh in. I have the same concern about, as you do, about February. February of this year, I think we came close to not having a quorum. But I also don't want to go without a meeting. So there's a balance here that I think we need to reach. I would also, before we finalize this, like to have with OHM at the October meeting, if they tell us we're going to need monthly meetings or we're going to have this dead period here, before we add meetings or start really pushing stuff around, I'd like to hear from them. But if I can ask each of you to please look at your, as far as you can, what you expect your regular calendars to be. I know Tom has said he preferred not Wednesdays. So we can start with that. He also said, don't change it because of him. We'll be as flexible as we can be.
That's a good reason to do it on Wednesdays. I can't be here.
Well, I couldn't say that's what you did, Howard. No,
But in the paper.
I do think that the number of meetings is one I'd like to hear from OHM on. And then the other thing to keep in mind too is we have asked the subcommittees to meet in the months where we don't have meetings. So the intention being that you have your meeting, you have time to get things to chat.
Yeah.
So these are the meetings of the full commission, but everyone's on at least one subcommittee. And so you do have those other commitments. I'm not sure what the right answer is.
Yeah, I'm not looking for an answer. I guess I just wanted to make sure that it's a discussion point and we're going to kind of work it out as we go.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
not
think
like
that's
we
fine.
will be the meeting.
No, I would like to finalize them probably next time.
Great.
We normally, historically, we have either done it in December or at the Q1 meeting, you learn them for the first time. We're trying to give people notice.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, it's not something that we have to approve tonight or even in October, so long as we're working on it.
Okay.
I also don't even think we have to approve it as a commission, so we can work this out. And if we need to make changes, we can make
Even in the
changes.
year. right?
Yes, yeah, we let Chad know and he works with Nick to get it up on the city calendar. And we are still actively working on where we're meeting. I'd like to return to the Tompkins Center so we don't have Patrick and Paul sitting behind us. But we shall see.
And that will be part of the discussion too, is if we feel a better day in a certain month works, I'll be able to work with city administration too, with all the other commissions to make sure that there's not already meetings on those days for the next calendar year.
Okay. I'd really like to see our first meeting in January because we have a big year. And I think we should start the first month.
I don't see an explicit statement in the bylaws that we have to meet in person. So one possibility would be, for example, in February, if many people are traveling, they could still meet at the meetings held by Zoom, for example. So that would be something to
That's a good point, and I had not considered that. If the February attendance issues are due to people vacationing elsewhere, that is not at all a bad idea. I'm not sure if we can do a mixed.
Ooh, that's interesting, yeah.
But I will ask Chad to follow up with the city administration on our capabilities to do that. mean, during COVID, when we were all on our computers.
Everybody was remote.
Right. But the mixed meeting, I'm not sure.
But even the entire meeting could be on Zoom because you could admit members as long
Yes.
as they identify themselves as being residents.
That's right, we got Zoom now. That's a good thought. Okay, anything else on the meeting schedule? Okay.
The other discussion item would be the Patterson Park Subcommittee request to extend the Patterson Park winter hours. As you'll see noted, my concerns in there to have later hours at the park, but again, I think this is something where if it's OHM or someone else working on this master plan, we'll probably be able to see that in this project with the ability to possibly create more lighting throughout that park. And again, our residents be able to utilize it more hours throughout the year than what we currently are. That's something we'll look at and say, if we want more activity there, how do we get that?
Why don't you remind us when the scheduled closings are going to happen?
You'll most likely see right around November, probably through end of February, March, where you're gonna see anywhere probably honestly from maybe 5:30 to 6 p.m. closure. I mean, once it's dusk and it's dark, and you're gonna see that if a couple of those months, the park is gonna close early.
So I don't really think that the park needs more lights. If there's snow on the ground and the moon shining, there's plenty of light out there. Everybody has access to buy headlamps and whatnot. I think we should really try to find a way to guess. I don't think we should have to wait a year for OHM to weigh in. I really don't. I think we can go walk the park. They should go walk the park in the dark and see how dark it is in the dark. Because with snow on the ground for those winter activities, the snow reflects light. I think we should just think about it. I think it's really easy to say no, and I think we should find a way to yes.
So I would like to have as much use of the parks as we can. They're great assets and we need to make them as available as possible. I do have concerns, especially with a single gate guard after dark, because there's not lighting. If it's just far more difficult to monitor what's going on. I don't know if there's a possibility with additional staffing, if we'd have to have someone roving the park. I understand the desire to use it, and I certainly share it. I'm concerned about the logistics of making that happen safely. I don't know, Chad, if you have any thoughts on would extra staffing substitute for extra lighting? Because I also don't have much floodlights.
I don't. This city's light, even when it's dark, it's light. I haven't found a dark corner in the city.
I appreciate that. I still think that I'm concerned about safety and security with a single gate guard and the lighting situation. So, Jan, do you have any thoughts on it?
I think we can look into it. I'm not sure the amount of activity might justify additional staffing if you only have 5 or 6 people throughout the evening to have 2 staff members on throughout the night, and they're just trying to walk in areas to see if they can find anyone and dress appropriately and not injure themselves. I'm not ruling it out, and again, I think closing at a certain time is difficult. Some of the other parks close at a set time, and I want to see us get there as well. I don't know if I have as much love closing at dusk as I do. This is the time throughout the year. It makes it much easier on my staff and myself to just say, this is when the park closes throughout the year. But I know what it can be like, and I think, again, doing some visits at dark and looking those areas over, what I get concerned about is what type of weather comes in, and those who are die harder with the snow and it's snowing versus someone who then you have snow on the sidewalk or patch of ice that just didn't get hit or they couldn't break up earlier. They slip on that, whether or not they have a headlamp on or something like that, or just for 12-year-olds wanting to sled down the hill and they smack into the tree because they didn't see the tree there. I'm not trying to go with that it's injuries.
On a pickleball game, I know. I mean, people aren't kayaking, they're not golfing, they're not in the splash pad. There isn't a whole lot of activity except for the rink. And I don't know if we want, and the dark can bring some weird things.
Chad, do you think it would be possible to
cross-country ski.
do you think it would be possible to explore scheduling maybe 2 nights a month where we could try it this year and we could have the staffing and see what the demand is, provide, at least try this. I'm just trying to think of a way that we can, rather than just guess about whether there's enough light or staffing. So I don't know if that's feasible.
Yeah, I'll talk with city administration, Cindy and Nick, to see what we can do on adding some of those later nights, just to get another trial run, see how it goes. And see if we can eventually get to year-round later hours for that. Because I don't want to say no to the fact of not allowing the residents to go in there and participate in activities and utilize the park as much as they want to. But I'm also living in a world where I fear of, well, you let me go in and do that and I got hurt and I don't want to face lawsuit after lawsuit or something. Why would you let our kids go do that and nobody's watching? Well, that's a good question. Like, why did you as well? But I want to make sure it's safe and enjoyable for them. So I don't want to say that it's easy to say no. I'm just telling you right now, and these are my concerns. I'm not saying no to it. I think we need to figure out a set hour throughout the year and close the parks that way rather than it changes 4 times throughout the year.
Oh, don't say that.
That's
Yours gonna change at the same time all year, whether it's dark at 9 o'clock or dark at.
well, once we have adequate lighting.
That will never fly.
So changing.
I think you just opened a whole new can.
Yeah, I was just back up 1 sentence and save that thought. Much
Do we currently turn off all the lights at a certain time?
No. The only lights that are activated and turned on or off were at the ice rink. Just the lights for the rink.
I never have been there where I felt it was all that dark. It seemed like there's adequate lighting throughout the park.
Okay.
Because we close at dusk.
I mean, winter solstice, it's dark by 4 o'clock. But, by March, it's not dark till after 8:30. So it's
Right.
to close it at the same time throughout the year. An interesting.
Maybe not at the same time, but closer.
Blocks of
Yeah, two times, basically, that makes sense.
So I think that you've heard from the commission, we'd like you to explore ways to test this. Okay?
Yep.
Anything else you want to highlight from your director's report?
No, just the rental data and the class participation as well. I gave you guys a breakdown of everything that we had in there. It might take a little more time to look through it. But generally, for the most part, numbers were good. Rentals were good as well. There's some areas that we can improve on. We'll look to do that.
So it's in your report, so I'll raise it now. If you want me to wait till one more point, you can. I know we had a few residents who sent emails in, and Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield raised as well that council's heard about the pool hours and the pool hours being adjusted to a new start. And there are residents who want to engage in lap swim, not the early morning lap swim that is in place, but a kind of just regular use of the pool lap swim, and they are disappointed by the shift to noon. Is that something you can talk about?
Absolutely. And mostly, like you'd seen in the email that I sent you, due to the staff's availability, even if we get a few more lifeguards, I'm not sure that will change entirely. What that might allow us to do is to give some of the staff members another rest day or something off, rather than working a significant number of days and getting 1 rest day and then they're back at another 6 days in a row. What it might do is bring 2 or 3 more lifeguards that will allow the current staff members to maybe have 2 rest days closer together, than forcing them to work longer days or more days in a row. And I've got another kind of document that I've been putting together and working with the team. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to try to see if we can extend the morning lap swim time period, the early morning lap swim, maybe a little bit longer, and try to get those who like the 7 to 9 in just a little bit more swim time during that time period. And also, again, try to see if we can find a couple days throughout the week, maybe 2 or 3, see if we can put something together to kind of change or extend the hours to allow us. I don't think you'd be surprised if you see in the next week or so some other pools that might change their hours as well, just again due to staffing shortages and issues there. But I'm working with the team right now to see if maybe 2 days a week we can get some of that morning swim back, or a little bit earlier start time than noon if it's possible with the staff that we have. So right now the challenge is we don't have the staff to be able to do that.
So you shifted the hours from the morning to the evening. Is there a difference are there more swimmers in the morning, more swimmers in the evening?
Typically, there's more swimmers in the evening than we have. It's more of probably a diehard committed group in the morning, but I don't think the numbers are as much as you would see in the midday or evening, just due to the type of activity that they're conducting in the pool from 7 to 9 compared to a 10 to 12 or a 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, 2 to 4 time period.
So the hour shift was trying to keep the pool open when it's used the most heavily as opposed to anything else.
Absolutely.
Okay, but
And that's
Still
what we're
the
trying
same
to add
group
on
that's
to the end of the
impacted.
night.
So if this changes, I mean, this is a big change from what it was in the past in terms of pool hours. So if, I assume you're going to say the change is because of we have a dearth of lifeguards, although our last minute said that we had an increased number of lifeguards. So this is kind of availability of lifeguards has increased, and now we don't have enough.
In the beginning of the season, yes.
Okay, so what has changed over the last 5 years, and what can we do proactively to reverse that so we can keep one of the amenities that everybody loves about the park open more? I mean, this is not a good strategy to just keep shrinking the pool hours. This is one of the things people can identify with and really love. So do we have outreach? Are we taking our mutant swim teams and paying for them to get lifeguard certification? Or what can we do thinking out of the box to get ourselves enough staff that we can keep the pool open?
We are going to start the recruiting process even earlier than planned. At the beginning of the year is when we're going to really start to hammer that so that we can have interviews conducted by February and have staff in place earlier in the season. Getting a little bit older, and I don't necessarily mean, and not opposed to older adults, but more of the college age lifeguards that will allow us to be open earlier mornings and earlier in the season. We used to have an abundance of guards that were interested in coming on. We'd have enough where they would get their trial run at the end of the summer around this time period. So when we lost those guards, we had the new guards to come in. We don't have that convenience anymore to be able to bring those in. So again, hitting throughout the season, but I think making sure that we hire a bit more than enough. Just the problem we have right now is that it's not just, some individuals reaching out that, well, college doesn't start until this date. Well, that's true, but they're leaving before that. A week, 2 weeks sometimes to start setting up their apartments, getting acclimated, just wanting a week off from anything until they start school back up again. That's some of the things I think people aren't taking into consideration is, yeah, they don't start college until this day, but they want 2 weeks off just to enjoy the summer themselves after they've been working 5-6 days a week. They're going to take a week or two off, or having to drive someone to an appointment, or take care of a little brother or sister, or the athletics orientations. That's, again, I don't want to take away from them and say, no, you can't go do this. We need you to work. And then they say, well, I'm not coming back because they weren't flexible with my schedule. So I think adding additional staff on, finding somewhat of some older staff, becoming a bit more competitive in our pay. And I think that's a discussion we're going to have with the finance department and the other gross points as well. We kind of need to come, I think, to an agreement on what we are. So we're not just trying to pull from each other. But we do want to make, obviously, working at Grosse Pointe Park with a 1 Point pool the best place to work. So From what I've heard, I think it has been enjoyed compared to some of the other Grosse Points in summer and how our operations have been and with the staff. So that's hitting it earlier and harder, I think will help us. And I think the competitive pay is also going to help us.
Do you think we're not competitive with the other Grosse Points now for pay?
We are competitive with the other Grosse Points, but probably in the standard across the country, we're probably a little low.
On the low side?
But I think we can work on that. We're not far off to say all of our lifeguards left. We're within 50 cents, so we're not that far off.
Okay.
And that depends on how far do you want to travel for that 50 cents more. Is that where your friends are and where you grew up, things like that. But I think we also need to get to that level and that standard of this is excellent pay, and there's not a reason to say no because you're not going to say, well, I don't know if I want to commit to that. It's not really worth the pay, but I get to be with two of my friends.
I would encourage you to think about the issue of outreach too. Find out where people are getting certified or recertified and be proactive in contacting.
We did do that.
Because
And most all of us are reaching out to that same person, so they're in a challenge to say which Grosse Point to go to. We kind of know where they get certified, and also we take that into consideration of who's certifying them because we've seen those staff members in the past and usually what their strengths and weaknesses are, where they've been certified, and who they come from.
And I'd say just keep that in mind too, as you talk about moving the interview timing up. I know some of those classes don't conclude until after the February timeframe.
Yeah.
And you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. You might have to do 2 rounds of it.
We will. Oh yeah, there'll be multiple.
Well, I guess to expand on Mike's, I'm surprised that it's a surprise. Like these guys should be asked when they come in, when they're leaving, right? I mean, and in our last meeting, we had no idea this was coming. Now we're getting residents calling me anyway, pretty mad about it. And so I just want to make sure that we are not just being proactive about, hiring earlier, but, all of those of us that have had staffs that we've managed have had to talk people into working on Christmas and all kinds of things. This is part of the management process, and we can't be surprised by the typical parts of the management process year after year, right?
do we have other employees in the city that have been certified in the past that we could encourage to get recertified that are adults and that are already on staff and could plug some of these holes too? You're expanding the fitness center hours, but we're contracting the pool.
Right.
There's a demographic issue there.
I go back to the changes in the agenda, and I agree with the chairman's view on the subcommittee reports for having it. But to me, this would be the chairman had mentioned about areas to address with council, quote. This would be a good example of whether it's council or whomever, finance or whomever. I think it's fair to say if it's a blind side, it probably shouldn't be. I think it's what I'm hearing right now. So I get that we reached out, but the staffing challenges aren't going to get better.
No.
And some of that probably falls on when we have that interview process. We ask them if they're available for the full season. Do you have any type of vacations or extracurricular activities that would present any issues? And typically they say what they are, but they don't know. And some of those, I don't think they fully know until
Their parents changed their
some of
mind.
the football, vacations are for sure one. And the others are some of the sports practices, talking to some of the other Grosse Point pool supervisors and directors. Some of the football practices or things like that don't come out until the last minute. And they've even said, I track the coaches down to find out they don't come out until, maybe a couple of weeks before, things like that. So they might say, yeah, I'm good. But you also might take a 15-year-old says, yeah, we don't have any plans. And, oh, I'm sorry. Mom said we had 3 vacations this summer. When I was nervous in the interview, we weren't doing anything because I'm not thinking 2 months out. So again,
Sports practices are very difficult because they've all started that. And add that on top of the college kids.
and I think that challenge might be too, because there's so many sports and teams and practice times and field availability and things like that. Sometimes it's last minute because they might be battling a little bit on who can get what time and access to facilities.
I think my point is, one, thank you for, I use blindsided, that's not the right word, because we knew about this, and I appreciate the fact that we knew about it a little more time. what I would say is any item that limits residents' access to the most important things that we provide, to me, goes right to the top of the list. So that's how I see. We prioritize a lot of things, but if we're changing hours and limiting resident experience, I think it goes right to the top of the list.
And that is one of my top one for next season. That is something that I don't want this to become, and I don't want our residents to think that this is going to become the norm or regular, that we're going to continue to cut things back. I don't want that. So we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we get back to those hours again, and give our residents the ample amount of time that they deserve and want, again, in a limited summer, and the availability of that one access to it. So it's a top priority for sure.
Anyone else on the full hours? Any other comments, questions for Chad on the director's report in your packet? I had a follow-up on the marina. Did you and Tom have any luck with Avonmarsh on getting a reduced price?
They are supposed to have all of that information to us either by the end of this week or the beginning of next. There were some permits that they were working on, and Eagle is requesting some more information regarding those. But as for all the other information, I exchanged some emails with Martin. I wasn't able to get in touch with Scott, but I think we're going to see a new cost estimate hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay. Are you going to circulate that to us? You can talk to the Marina Subcommittee. Is that just going to be discussed in the ordinary course? What happens next after that?
The hope is that basically in that order, we'll review it with Nick and city administration in town. We'll look it over, see where we're at. But the goal is hopefully that we can get that distributed, feel good, and hopefully get to the next step of going out for RFPs to see what we come in with those numbers.
Are you going to want a recommendation from this body before you go out for RFPs?
Most likely, yes, but I want to make sure if we feel comfortable what we look at and everything is covered that we want to go out. I think the main thing is making sure we've got everything covered in the project that we want, feels comfortable with public safety, public works, everyone that will be assisting and working in that marina to go out. The main thing is we need to see what this project's going to cost us.
Understood. If you're going to go out to RFP on the basis of this quote, I would ask that you email it out to this group so that we know what it is that is the basis of that.
Yep.
And if you need our input or approval before the October meeting to keep it on track, let us know that too. We can weigh in via email or call a special meeting if needed.
And we'll be able to share. Avonmarsh will put that together.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming. I want to make sure we're getting you the comments you need, but not holding them up. Larry?
I just want to remind everyone that the Marina Subcommittee has been waiting patiently to help develop bidding specifications before we put out the RFPs. So let's not forget that we've got some very talented people who can contribute to that process and possibly get a better value for our money.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see that when
Okay.
Avonmarsh has that put together. Absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone else on the director's report? James?
The gazebo. So I think last meeting you referenced removing the current lattice structure. You said it in here again. I see nothing about replacing the lattice structure. I just feel you can't remove that lattice without putting it back up. The wisteria needs something to grow on. And I mean, we were looking at it on our last time out there. If we can't afford to replace it, then we should just fix the broken ones now. It looks like some brackets can be put up there and let the wisteria do its work. That stuff's strong, it'll climb on its own. Twirls up together to grow. I'm just worried that it's actually going to do some damage to the actual structure if we don't have that lens.
Absolutely. Let me double check on on the budget in there. I do have the price of what that was to replace it. Let me just make sure we got that. If it looks like we're comfortable with that, we had an unexpected potential repair that you probably saw. I got the quote just to replace one of those precast concrete structures that just the bench to sit on. That's $2,500 just to replace that.
So, and Chad, I'm a little confused here. I thought that in the spring, we had recommended removal of the lattice, and then it was budgeted, or after you talked to council, to replace the lattice. And now we're sitting here in August, as James points out, with still broken lattice that we're going to either remove or replace, depending on what point we're in the process.
Yeah.
Is the budget to remove and replace? Is the budget to remove and we'll deal with it after the strategic plan? What?
I have to take one more look just to make sure that that was budgeted in there to replace it. And I believe it was replaced in this current fiscal year that we're in to be able to replace with it. So it was a tear out and a replace.
Would you add that to your follow-up
Yep.
item for next meeting, please, James? Thank you. Other questions, comments, concerns on the director's report? From those behind me in the dark, jeez.
I have to get used to it.
Okay, James, that's another one?
Do we have any timing on when the playscape's gonna be complete?
After Labor Day. Yep. We're gonna wait until any more end of the summer picnics and things like that, and they're coming in basically the week after Labor Day and finish everything up there.
Assume they're gonna clean it and then.
That's what they said too, to give them more time to clean it and finish those areas.
That's really dragging on. In the last meeting, we were told it was gonna be done within days. It was gonna be done on June 13th.
The contractor jobs picked up, they got busier. And so I've had multiple conversations with them. They're coming back out. I made the executive decision with them right now to not touch anything until after Labor Day now, because I don't want to impact any picnics or anything like that at the end of the summer.
James, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
I have a question about pickleball courts. I don't recall if it was you or the city manager, but there was a chance that the pickleball courts could be reconfigured within the existing budget. I guess I was just curious what the status of that thought is.
I don't believe they finished, and Nick, I don't want to bring you to the meeting if I don't have to, but I think the conversation with Ginger is I think they're starting an audit soon, or they're going to be doing some work where we might be see if there's funds that were left over from the last fiscal year that we might be able to.
Okay, so still
possible. Yeah, I don't think that work has taken place yet to know what we've got left yet. So there's that. We also have another idea that I talked to an architect and some other individual that play regularly. We might be able to change the courts up a little bit rather than having posts and things that are put in there permanently, redoing the servicing and things like that and the lines, but having portable court systems and things like that. And that could probably save us a significant cost as well.
That works really well some places.
Yeah. I'm going to look at that as an option. I know I've got Guestwire Park. They do something similar to that with the roller rink that they used to have there too. So we're going to look at if that maybe helps cut some of the costs. I think that's what we're going to look at. The biggest thing is just making sure we get the surface.
It's still one of the most frequent requests I hear is pickleball courts.
Yes. And online reservations are going well. So
Great data on that, by the way. Thank you.
Resolve it. You can
reserve pickleball courts.
No, I know, but the putting,
No.
okay, so there's data in here.
Yes, because in-house programs.
Okay.
So some of that stuff is
It's just
programs and
like,
activities.
you just block it out of use.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the number of like classes and things that we have in there. So
Total curiosity question, not at all important.
that might be something for us to explore down the road of, though. If you want to have a chipping and putting green party, you can reserve putting greens.
Thinking outside the box, like Bannon.
It says.
You good?
And that's nonsense.
Patrick?
I'm good.
Anything? Larry? No. Paul? Roger?
I was wondering about the retractable roof for the cornhole.
That will be for the Paxton Park pickleball courts.
All right. Anything else, Chad, from you on your director's report?
No.
anything on, Paul, that you wanted to cover on programming that we haven't covered in your Chad's written report or in the discussions tonight?
No, sir.
Windmill, anything we have to cover?
I don't think so. I think that parking lot looks awesome, and although we're all concerned about what gets parked there, I think there's less there than there used to be, so like, I'm happy.
It does look good.
Oh, it's
They did a great job.
Yeah.
Larry, Marina?
No, nothing really to report. We're still waiting to get into
Standing by.
waiting to get into the development of bidding specs with Avon Marsh, and we've been waiting for them to get back to us. So I've been talking with Tom and Chad occasionally, and just waiting. We're in waiting mode right now.
Excellent. WAIT, not WAD. James Anderson?
No, I think we covered everything on Erica's report that we want to talk about.
Unfinished business, we covered a lot of that during the director's report. Any other unfinished business that anyone wants to cover? New business, I think we actually handled during the director's report. Let me open it up to the floor. Any other new business?
I just wanted to give a recognition to Zach for the snack shack for the summer. Did a great job there, especially in the warmer days and months, but also to the staff working that and new ones for the season. All the individuals there have been above and beyond kind and sincerely patient during some of the busier moments. And it has been a special treat to have down there and just a great recognition of the vision that we're about.
I think it's a very well deserved, Patrick, thank you. And from my perspective, this is the least we've discussed the snack shack as a commission, which is really the biggest sign that it's running smoothly. It's just running. So thank you for flagging that, and I join you in it. Any other, Roger?
I just want to give a comment to Chad. I'm a good multitasker, and I've done a lot of different businesses. And I get blurry-eyed when I think of all the little pockets of business that are in the park that Chad has to oversee. He was bringing back some thoughts of hiring kids in the mall when he's talking about hiring lifeguards and all that. It's not easy. I mean, you've got to have 10 interviews before you get 2 candidates, and then you've got to work that through. And I don't know how many people you actually have working for you helping you with some of this, Chad, but great commendation for all that you do and all the different business spheres that are going on, because it's a great place to live. I'm not going to discuss that.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. And again, it goes to the having a great team as well. Stedman Taylor has done an exceptional job picking up all the little odds and ends for me to help me out with that. Claire and Xavier, the pool supervisor and assistant pool supervisor, Sean, Dave, Sue, all those, everybody coming together and making sure that they can help me with some of the smaller stuff. You know, it's a great team effort. So I appreciate that, but I have a great team to help me as well.
Is there an assistant like Chris was before for you, or no?
Not to the same extent. It's primarily Stedman and myself that handle a lot of the hiring and interviews and programs and kind of daily duties and things like that, and working with Sean and Dave and Sue to kind of what's on the plan for the week, and then they assign that to their staff. So, you know, we're looking, it would be nice, you know, to see if we can add another team member to kind of alleviate some of that and push it in some of those items to another one. Hopefully soon we can figure out a way in the budget to make something like that work. So I can do a little bit more bigger projects, oversee the department. But thank you. Yeah.
All right, so would anyone like to make a motion for an adjournment?
So moved.
Collective movement, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, appreciate it. We will see you in 2 months, hopefully with OHM.
Yeah, October.
Yes. Come on.
Hey.
Yeah. Everything in next month.
Yeah, right.
Like, in September.
Oh, okay.
You know, no, you know.
Well, I got Canadian Thanksgiving in October, so, you know. Hey, you know what? Do this. I was gonna tell you, I tried putting it into the budget for this year. Okay, yeah.
I wrote it in the same.
We're all right here, but.
Right, so this is the.
I don't know, 20 grand.
I mean.
Yeah, I just. So I went.